I hear you.
And then we're live.
All right.
Welcome to Cracker Barrel live from the old country store. To be honest, before the last 7 days, and maybe this is like different in different parts of the country. When's the last time you thought about and entered a Cracker Barrel?
Within the last year, we have one right off the exit next to where I live. We we go in there. I love the food. I love everything. Now, here's the thing. So before everybody freaks out, I think the conversation here is really about just change in general, embracing change. Like, how are you building your brand? My brand's 25 years old. I've made changes over that time, and I think it's worth talking about how you roll those changes out, if it's the right thing to do, when it's the right thing to do. But for you guys, I don't know. My news feed it's like the Coldplay. Now it's Cracker Barrel. Like every other video is about the Cracker Barrel rebrand. Are you guys getting that, or is it just me because I'm clicking on everything?
I mean, I think as soon as you start clicking on it, it starts showing up more, and the more you click on it, the more, the whole nine. So I think, you guys watch the movie The Matrix, right?
Sure.
You must have seen The Matrix. Yeah. So the idea is human being, spoiler alert, I think it's like 30 years old. I don't think I have to say spoiler alert anymore. Human beings are batteries that power AI and whatever. And they have to put them sort of in this like alternate reality to keep them alive and keep the brain stimulated. And Mr. Smith says, we gave them a utopia first. Why wouldn't you just keep them happy? Humans rejected it. We dislike perfect. We like complaining. We look for the edges, the threads, and we pull. We pick scabs. We're just weird, right? This is the next thing to complain about. Like, we love to like throw virtue on the CEO of Astronomer, right? Like, he's at a concert with someone, like, look at that guy. And the funniest part is, I mean, how many times do you see a senator waving their finger and then get busted for the same thing they're waving their finger about like 6 months later? We love doing this. So I think it's funny. That's why we do it. I think the last time I thought about or went into a Cracker Barrel was 7+ years. I don't remember. I think it's a brilliant model. It's a store with a restaurant behind it, or a restaurant with a store in front of it. You've got to walk through the store, and that's a money-making machine. More stores have sort of done this, but not to the level of Cracker Barrel. Dave, a lot of Cracker Barrels in Brooklyn?
No, but I did, when we were talking about this over the weekend, and I first saw this on, I think it was like Thursday or Friday of last week, whenever we were messaging it, that it was on the news, and certain news outlets were going crazy about it and all that. And yeah, I hadn't thought about Cracker Barrel at all, but I did have to look up how many stores they have, and it was something like 600 something, maybe 664, something like that.
That many.
And there was a pretty cool graphic. I don't know if I shared it with you guys, but it showed like where most of their stores are, and it was like 50 or 60 in like Florida and Texas and Tennessee. So obviously, like a lot of the southern states, I think there were maybe 9 or something in New York State, which is not that much because of how large New York State is. So I do understand a little bit of where initially where I think Tony or some others were coming from, in terms of like, they had a customer and it's kind of in certain pockets of the country. And my thought is just like, first of all, logos change. I gave an example in the DMs of the Starbucks logo evolution. If a company can go from having a logo with your words on it to eventually a logo where there are no words, for example, all the Apple stores, where now it just has the picture of the Apple on the front of the Apple store itself, you know what the Apple store is. Starbucks, they dropped Starbucks Coffee Company, the actual text from their logo, and McDonald's has done the same. They went from having McDonald's on the red and yellow logo to more of the logos were just the golden arches. And so I just think it's the evolution of just large corporate companies as they kind of evolve a logo. And oftentimes when they evolve and change design of a logo, it's usually doing less on the logo instead of adding more things to the logo, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I understand, like, if Cracker Barrel is trying to move away from their ideal target customer, then I think that is potentially, silly, or maybe doesn't make sense. However, if their whole intent around this was to go after like a younger or more progressive customer base who maybe has more discretionary income to spend there, maybe if they did that with their research and all that, then that's when it would make sense. Because with all these corporate companies, the financial motive must prevail. All they care about is the financial motive. Obviously, they want to have a great product and service. They want to have a great team, great culture, all of that. If you have all that, then maybe you make some of these moves. But that's kind of my initial thoughts and takeaways on this whole thing.
So let's talk about that, because that's the direction I wanted to go. I look at my clinic, I look at my layout, and I've shared this before. Like we're serving the Cracker Barrel community. My city here, Monroe, this is the last clinic we operate. It's pretty much like a bunch of people that grew up locally. They had farms, they worked on the farm, they work in steel mills, they work in manufacturing. And if I me personally wanted like a really high-end clinic with high-end finishes and beautiful design and aesthetic, and I wanted to be that third space like Starbucks created, I don't think this community would feel comfortable with that. Now, to Dave's point, if I wanted to try and move toward a cash-based model, if I wanted to be able to justify 250 or more a session, if I wanted to move toward people who have that discretionary income, just 5 miles down the road is a city that's more urban, that has more income. There's lots of engineers, lots of P&G employees, Procter & Gamble, General Electric, like all of that. I think the smart move would be not to change this clinic into that clinic, but to go open another clinic. And I think this is where Cracker Barrel ran into problems, is if they are like removing stuff from the walls and changing the aesthetic of the interior of the restaurant, also, the culture of corporate Cracker Barrel trying to come down into what the employees are doing, it doesn't make sense to me. Just go start a new restaurant that embodies that culture and that theme. Don't try to change what you've already created that was successful.
Yeah, car brands do the same thing, right? I mean, a Lexus is essentially an amped up Toyota, and a cheap Toyota was a Scion. Like, so they understood who their market was. The person needs to go from A to B. Well, I can do that with a bicycle or a pair of rollerblades or a cheap car or an expensive car. I'm not going to pay a ridiculous amount of money for a Scion, or maybe I would. Maybe I'd buy a stock Scion and I'd modify it. So yeah, I think if you were going to create a spinoff, because you have this legacy with this brand, I don't know about like changing the logo. Like, to be honest, like we can't do it now, and I'm sure they did, but take 100 people in a room and say, describe or draw the Cracker Barrel logo. I would have drawn a barrel. In my mind, I did not see a guy there. Or I thought it was a rocking chair, because that's their whole thing, right? It's a country store and a rocking chair. So I was like, Cracker Barrel. I know it's like mustard colored logo and a barrel. That's what I remember, right? But like to the people, but I'm not the target audience at all. So I understand that. I'm the last person, maybe not the last person. Maybe I'm aging into that audience in 5 or 10 years. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to create that new aesthetic, why didn't you just do that?
So taking this into the PT world, and the reason why we're having this on the show is, okay, so what are we talking about if we take the brand of PT? Are we going to try and bring it into, 2025? I always bring this reference up. We started as reconstruction aids. We were told what to do. We want this ultrasound at this intensity for this many minutes. Now we've got doctors of physical therapy that are so far removed from what physical therapy came from. Are we going to try and change what we are delivering, or just create a new brand? Step away from, for those of you who want to, I don't want to. I am happy to do whatever needs to be done within the confines of insurance. It's easy money. It's super straightforward. But for those of you like Dave who wants to go beyond what we've always done, I don't think it makes sense to try and change 100 years of history. Just create something
hard.
new. Like, don't
Yeah.
even bother to drag everybody out of the past.
Oh, Cracker Barrel physical therapy. Is
You
that
don't
a
even notice the
prosthetic?
fact. You don't even notice the fact that he's got 3 legs.
2 legs and a prosthetic, maybe?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what I
know,
was
man.
thinking.
I mean,
You just made that-
Cracker Barrel would be a great name if you wanted to start a chiropractor office in Florida. That's just
They
me.
could have a chiropractor in the front in the store.
Yeah, crack on the way in, crack on the way out. Like, what do you need? What do you need?
Helps with digestion.
You guys remember the Simpsons episode, right? Where he like falls over a trash can.
No, I don't know that one. What happened?
Oh my gosh.
It's one of Tony's favorites. What did he call it? What did Homer Simpson call it?
Later, go Google search it on YouTube. Homer goes to a chiropractor. It's hilarious. But anyway, anything else on that? Anything else on that topic?
Well, I think the big one for that is where you were just going with it, which is we were reconstruction aids. Then I would love to know someone rebranded it and said, this is a new profession. This is different. What are we going to do now? So the question is, are we there? We had a conversation maybe a year ago where I threw out a ridiculous idea that said, like, will there be physical therapists, occupational therapists, physiatrists in 20 years, or will they be absorbed into one profession? Like, and people scoffed at me, like, that's ridiculous. Of course that wouldn't happen. But is it as crazy as saying, well, you're a physical therapist, but you work in inpatient or hand or pelvic floor or orthopedics? So my question wasn't, will they not exist? It's, will it be morphed and then regulated where this one practitioner can do 15 things, but you have different specialties for those things?
I mean, nothing overall is going to change with our profession. It's going to be the same. You're going to have the same type of options. You can go work in a hospital. You could go work at an in-network corporate that has 200, 500, 1,000, whatever locations. Then there's going to be the private practices. There's going to be my style, the home visits.
But how can you, a person who is working in a model that 25 years ago did not exist, say there's going to be no change?
Meaning, like, I mean, I right now, I don't think from now, of course, the change might be maybe a little more virtual, maybe a little more self-pay and cash, and there's going to be more consumer adoption of the self-pay stuff. But in terms of our profession, the physical therapy, PT, OT, all that, like being so diverse, like you have therapists in a hospital walking your family member, walking them, around the bed. Ambulating. Thank you. Ambulating safely, watching the wires, watching the leads, making sure they don't fall and trip and sue the hospital. But then there's Tony's physical therapy. There's home visits. There's the physical therapy practices now that have turf. Like, other than what's already existing, I'm not sure how much more it could evolve. But I don't think the profession as a whole will really change. I think it's more on the consumer side. I think more of the patients and consumers are finding, like, whether it's from Instagram video, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, they're finding more of these professionals that are offering what they want or what they need. Yeah. And more practices don't, they don't have to use physical therapy as their name. Like my first 3 words were concierge pain relief. Yeah, we do physical therapy. They're Strive to Move, and that's like Dr. Josh Funk's practice, and he, yes, they do physical therapy, but they're not saying physical therapy is more about the movement and the independent type of patient that they want to attract.
So I guess the question is, no pressure, no diamonds, no pressure, no change. And if you live in the Facebook comments, I see a lot of people complaining about the future of the profession, how to get people to go to school to become PTs, to then attract them, hire them, and keep them, and not a whole lot of problem, right? Like, what would the top 2 problems? I asked this the other day to ChatGPT, and I asked it on LinkedIn. What are the top 2 problems in the profession of physical therapy? And they said reimbursement, getting paid for what we do, and finding PTs to work for you. It's not this thing that we're talking about, which is, do people know what we do? Enough people do. We have bigger problems. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you go along with that, then, and you're in the Facebook comments, the problem is everyone's saying the debt to income ratio. Could that cause a change? I look where the complaining is and say, well, what happens when that gets to the point and breaks?
I think it already is, because you guys all see more of these therapists going out on their own, or
Sure.
small micro clinics with a couple
Yeah.
different therapists, and they're charging out of pocket, or they're maybe like they take Medicare, they take Tony's Learn Medicare billing course, they bill Medicare, but then they're self pay with all the payers. There's more of that hybrid practice. There's more of those therapists that are going out on their own that don't want to be in a normal corporate environment. So I think like we're already seeing that change, because now there's so many therapists that are independent. We're going to talk about Luna in a few minutes. Like there's therapists that do a little bit of Luna, they're working a corporate job, or they're switching, they're doing some Luna and some like their own self-pay private, clients that are just paying them directly. So I think we're already seeing that when we're talking about the payment and reimbursement from health insurance absolutely is driving a lot of this. And some of these therapists are going, well, I don't want to go work and see 15, 20, 30, whatever patients at some corporate offices per day. And I would rather see 6, 7, 8 patients a day.
And make more and be happier.
The Luna thing is interesting. Jimmy, if you have the image,
Yeah.
I commented on that post because this plays right into what we're discussing, like changing the brand, changing the model. We know collectively, we understand what people want. And then Luna comes out with an ad. Well, I think it's an ad that basically says, hey, you can have your own personal stretch coach covered by Medicare. So this is, branding or marketing in true terms. Like clients don't care about physical therapy, but all of a sudden you hear stretch coach, and it's a buzzword right now with Stretch Lab and all of the other franchises that are coming out. I thought, not really, but why wouldn't therapists embrace this? Why wouldn't they say, yes, this is awesome. We're going to show patients and consumers what we can actually do. Everybody hated it. Nobody liked the idea. Now, I understand. I think they were, my understanding, they were offended. They didn't want to be considered a stretch coach because you don't have to even go to college to be a stretch coach. Do you have that image?
No, I'm looking for it. Wait, is it that one? No, it's not it.
No.
It was a post from Marcy something.
Yeah, which Marcy does a great job. She works with Luna. She brings her Medicare patients onto the Luna platform. She's a big fan of Luna, but she didn't like the way Luna was kind of saying that we are now stretchologists, not physical therapists. But this goes back to the therapists who do LSVT, the therapists who do Rocksteady, the therapists who do all sorts of other stuff. They take it, you can do it in a compliant way under a Medicare plan of care, but they don't want you to call it something else. They want you to call it what it's branded as. And my thing is, we go back to Jimmy said something that drives me crazy. Therapists want to get paid more. Therapists want to get paid more for what they do. They ignore the fact that, you're getting paid to do what the payer wants you to do. And so something like stretching, we have clients all the time that come in here for their physical therapy and then go private pay for stretching down the street. Why are we not embracing this? Why are we threatened by it? Even when we are the ones delivering it, we still freak out about it. Yeah, here's a screenshot.
All right, Jimmy, check this out. I want to hear if Jimmy thinks that, Jimmy, do you think this ad is kosher and okay, or is it misleading?
In what way? Okay, so Luna brings one-on-one physical therapy to your home, covered by Medicare. Feel stronger, more independent, and get the care you deserve.
At the bottom, put that picture up. At the bottom, it says your personal stretching coach. Yeah, that is where people lost their mind.
Not just your personal stretching coach, comma, now covered by Medicare. Yeah. There's no way this is covered by Medicare.
Oh, really?
Jimmy, is it? I mean, it's stretching is
well,
like.
I think what they're saying is I read it as it was part of the whole thing. Like, do I get that? Do I get the stingly things and the warm pack? Like, is that the end of it? Do I get that? Because that's what they're kind of looking for, right?
Well, they're presenting an ad because they know what consumers want. Sure. Now, Tony, on another episode or many other episodes, Tony will lay out the actual definition of what's covered under Medicare guidelines. And we
Right.
don't bill Medicare, so Tony can chime in and remind me or remind us if I'm saying it, off base. But basically, Medicare will pay for helping Medicare beneficiaries not relieve pain, not relieve tension that stretching would maybe help. Medicare pays for helping a Medicare beneficiary return or improve or overcome issues around dressing, bathing, cooking, cleaning, personal hygiene, toileting, all that stuff. All the vital ADLs, activities of daily living, not getting back to yoga, getting a stretch, getting stretched out, and you're completely ambulatory and you have no functional deficits or impairments. Does that make sense, guys?
It does. So the key here, the key distinction, and this is where you could say it's a gray area. I don't think it necessarily is. What is the intent? So if I have a patient who developed a fibrosis or developed, scar tissue, and I'm stretching them, let's go into my niche, total knee replacement. They had a knee replacement done. They've scarred down. They can't get past 90 degrees. I can utilize active stretching, passive stretching, active assisted stretching. I can utilize all of these tools to stretch the patient in a Medicare covered, Medicare compliant plan of care. And I can bill Medicare for it. The fact that you want to call me a stretch coach, because who cares? That's not a branded term in any way anyway, means nothing. It's completely meaningless. But to the consumer, I always share this story. When I talk to patients, especially active patients that go to the YMCA, that work out, that do things, they come to me for physical therapy. And then I'm like, you know what? I actually started 25 years ago. I was a strength coach. I was a personal trainer. And then I became a physical therapist. You know what happens? They light up. Their eyes get big. They get excited. They get a big smile on their face. They're like, oh, I didn't know you were a personal trainer. Like personal training was 5 levels above physical therapy. And that brings buy-in. That makes them excited. That makes them feel like they're getting free personal training paid for by Medicare. So this is just direct response marketing. This is just sales.
Yes.
Jolly Ranchers are a fat-free treat that you can have. Like a banana is a gluten-free treat that you can have. Why would you say those things? Because it's just the branding in the words. But the idea here is Luna identified, hey, stretching is a big trend. Physical therapists can stretch you. That's no different than saying free massage paid for by Medicare, because massage is a modality that physical therapists can use. And it's more appealing to a certain demographic than manual therapy. People don't know what manual therapy is.
But you just mentioned a few minutes ago that some of your insurance or Medicare beneficiaries come to your office for covered services. You guys, your practice bills Medicare or the in-network insurance. And then you just said 3 to 5 minutes ago that then that same individual drives down the street and pays out of pocket to go to some stretch lab, correct?
Correct.
Luna is trying to capture those individuals that are paying out of pocket, whether they have actually medically necessary issues or not.
Yes.
And they know that those folks, like, hey, if we can get these ads in front of those consumers might say, oh, well, it's my copay, or so it's cheaper, or maybe it's even free. So why would I go to Stretch Lab? I can just go to Medicare. That's what Marcy is saying. That's what Marcy Del Frederico, that's what she's saying. That is, I agree with her, because I've mentioned so many times on the show that like so many physical therapy practices will see a patient, bill for Medicare or in-network coverage services, but the person wants to drive the golf ball another 50 yards. Like it's truly not medically necessary. But then, like Tony said weeks or days or months ago, that then in the note, the physical therapy note will say, oh, we helped them with dressing, bathing, toileting, and all this type of stuff. But many of these folks are not actually appropriate for insurance or Medicare covered services. And that is what I believe Marcy is irritated about, even though she's on the Luna platform as a therapist. So I agree with her. It's basically like Luna saying like, hey, we'd rather get those self-pay services, those folks that are going to Stretch Lab, your insurance covers it. Regardless, and this is the gray area, regardless of whether you actually have a vital impairment or functional deficit.
No, I don't think it's gray. I think it's either fraud or it isn't. Like, so you just said someone went there.
So then it's fraud.
Hold on a
there's
second.
there's no way it's kosher.
Someone went there and they don't have a a deficit? How do you know? On the eval, if you didn't find a deficit, then you continued, fraud, right? I mean, I'm not a lawyer,
And so many therapists do that. You guys know it
so
happens.
then they should be in trouble. I don't
So
think it's
many.
a gray area.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Let me play with words. And the bottom of this is cut off, but it says your personal stretch coach covered by Medicare. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yes. Now covered by Medicare.
Would we have a problem if it said strength instead of stretch?
Dave?
I think it's the same thing. Yeah.
What about function?
If that, I don't know, Tony, is function part of the Medicare covered services in terms of helping someone regain function?
What's the function? If the function is going on a leisurely, travel to Europe, it is not a covered benefit. If function
then it's not covered.
So
yeah,
what
function.
So what is, like, give me like example words.
Personal hygiene, toileting, dressing, cooking, cleaning, bathing, all that type
Now,
of
my
stuff.
question would be, do I need strength to do those things?
Here's where you're going, which
know.
was a post that I shared about a week ago, where I said, look, what are you guys telling your client who comes in and they say, I want to travel, I want to go back, do these things in the community, I want to have fun, I want to hike for leisure. What are you telling them? How are you explaining that Medicare doesn't pay for that? And every single one on that thread, except one or two who kind of know me, they're like, oh, well, you can always justify it. And if you want to, go hike for leisure, you have to be able to walk across the room and you have to walk on uneven surfaces. So for decades, the profession of physical therapy,
yes.
I think the indoctrination came from schooling, has been programmed to think everything has to be paid for by Medicare. And if it's not,
I agree.
If it's not, we're going to figure out ways to make it covered by Medicare. That was fine.
Because they don't own the price. They don't own the value of what we do. So they're like, I can't, what if someone like PTs don't like to be wrong. I don't want to say, hey, it's $250. And they say, well, I'm going to just go down the street and use my Medicare. And they lose that patient. That's why.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's the difference between the business owner and the therapist. It's the difference between somebody who understands what the payer contract says versus what my academic background said. We were all trained. You got to be patient advocates and you got to support your patient and get your patient what you want, to the point that we are willing to lie. We are willing to hold back information saying, no, we're not talking about traveling Europe and cobblestone streets. We're talking about walking through a transition from the kitchen to the family room. And they need to be able to do that. And they can't do it as well as they should. So we're going to work on that. I've been a loud advocate for saying, look, if you really look at what we are doing, and the difference now is we are getting paid 34% inflation adjusted value today than we were 15 or 20 years ago. We can't keep doing that. No. When there was a little bit of cushion in the pricing, we could do something like that. There's the chart. We can't do that anymore. So if a client comes to you and says, hey, I saw this ad, you're going to be stretching me so I can go play pickleball. Yeah, beautiful, $250. Hey, I saw this ad, you're going to be stretching me so I can literally sit on the commode. Okay, Medicare will pay for that. And we have to be honest with ourselves, with our patients, which goes to, I don't think you guys saw it because we didn't discuss it. It goes back to, I just shared another post saying, hey, why aren't we giving the patient an itemized breakdown? I prescribed 10 visits for this, insidious onset left shoulder pain. 10 visits is $250 to $2,500. Your Medicare discount brings that down to about $1,000. And with your current Medicare coverage and the supplemental you've been paying for, you actually have zero out-of-pocket cost. So what would have been $2,500 for 10 visits, amazing, you get it for zero out-of-pocket cost. Now, that being said, I do recommend you might want to consider some of this equipment. Here is an ice pack and a TENS unit for $100, or if you want to upgrade a little bit, you can go to this device for $300. Or if you really want to prevent this from happening again, I would recommend you get this elliptical with the upper extremity reciprocal motion, which is about $1,000. But look, you just saved $2,500, $1,000 investment for the rest of your, 20, 30 years you're going to be alive. think it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I think this more information, like you usually say less is more, but I feel like what you just said and what you outlined in this post is more, which is like making sure people can understand value versus cost or cost versus price, right? So what you're saying is if we agree to discount a $250 visit to Medicare all the time, you're never going to stop doing that. You are literally just classically conditioning someone into thinking what you have is worth less, and you're going to discount it, or you're going to find a way to make it free for me and $38 for you. So let's go through this again. So what you're saying is, why wouldn't you tell your patient that he's actually getting $2,500 for a 10 visit plan of care, saying it's $250 a visit times 10 equals $2,500 for $1,000 for the $100 payment you're actually going to get from Medicare times 10 being $1,000. Now they feel like they are $1,500 up. I'm playing with house money.
And they are. I mean, it's
Right.
not even, again, this goes back to Jolly Ranchers are fat free. They are saving that money. They do get to celebrate more than a 50% discount just for being a Medicare beneficiary.
Right. And then when you look at this, it is not an accident that video game arcades and casinos don't let you play with money. They could do it. They could easily do it. There's cash right there. You can put cash. There's a reason they do it, because when it doesn't feel like money, like you can't really walk out the process of turning a card at an arcade with a kid back into cash. I'll just turn it into a crane machine and some bleep blop bloops and some lights. So why not use that for good? But like, here's the thing. Here's the best part. Is this true? Like, are they actually getting $2,500 worth when they're only having to pay $1,000? It's true if you believe it. It's true if you provide it. It's true really not if you believe it. It's true if they believe it. But this takes a while, and this takes repetition. And to communicate this, it's simple, but not easy. And I'm saying it's right. I'm not disagreeing with it, just to be clear.
Side question for Tony. Tony, how often have you seen traditional Medicare beneficiaries, for whatever reason, jump over to Medicare Advantage plans? Does that like never happen, or does it happen sometimes? Or
vast majority. And the reason why is because Medicare Advantage plans are phenomenal at saving you money and making, if you're going to stay local and you're not traveling the world and you're not rich, like Medicare Advantage plans are amazing financial tools to help cover the cost of healthcare.
And just remind the audience, so if a traditional Medicare Part B visit is like $100, $120 for the eval, follow-up visits are like $100, it averages 100 and whatever, $106, $109 or whatever for a plan of care per visit. Does the Medicare Advantage plan pay similar to that, or is it well below it?
If they should pay on par. Now I'm going to say your numbers that you're citing are a couple years old. Realistically, 4-unit visit follow-up right now with a PT, about $87. With a PTA, about $82. That's for an hour of therapy today, 2025. Most Medicare Advantage plans should be on par with that. The difference is beneficiaries are not paying premium. And they don't have a supplemental plan, which means that they're usually paying a $30 to $40 copay. The allowed amount on a Medicare Advantage is usually less than the Medicare allowed amount when you're contracted. So we have a lot of Advantage plans that are coming in at an hour of therapy about $72, $77, but the patient is paying 30 to 40 of those dollars. So the plan is paying me about 30. The patient is paying 40. Total collected is about 70. And now a lot of these plans are increasing audits. So I've got to spend administrative time sending in documentation. A lot of these plans are requiring authorization. So we've got to spend time on the front end doing extra paperwork. If I didn't embrace being a billing company first and a therapist second, I could not be in business today. And if I didn't have the advantage of 25 years of history, I haven't bought new equipment in 20 years, which we can talk about a practice that's for sale right now that we grabbed the screenshot. But my point being, I've got leases that were negotiated 15 years ago. I've got equipment that was purchased 20, 25 years ago. a new therapist coming into the world today, being born today, you cannot compete with me because I have so many advantages over you. Don't try to play the game in my backyard. It's never going to happen for you.
Perfect. And I'm not slam dunking anyone, but this proves my point, and I agree with you guys on, you have a Medicare beneficiary, but we don't take it. But the others watching, listening, and you should be saying, here's why it's the value is $2,500 and you're getting it for 1,000. And the reason why you should be presenting it that way and owning it and reminding them. And I can't remember if it was like Dan Vapney or someone wrote online, like they want to try to contact their EMR to make sure it's like on all the EOBs or the statements or something, like you're saving this, you're saving, this is $2,500 value, but Medicare's just paying 1,000. So you're actually experiencing real savings and real value here. The reason why this would be great is so all the therapists, especially that follow Tony with Learn Medicare Billing and all that, if they have these Medicare beneficiary patients, and that's why I asked, like, how much or how often do they go from traditional Medicare to Medicare Advantage plans? The therapists that are not as experienced as you, Tony, that do not have all those advantages, that don't understand billing, and they're not set up for Medicare Advantage plans. Let's say for a couple of years they're in practice, they're treating a bunch of Medicare beneficiaries, and some of them jump over to Medicare Advantage plans, but they're not set up for Medicare Advantage plans. And if you don't own here's the $2,500 value, but you're getting it for 1,000, and it's basically like a $250 visit that we're charging, but Medicare is covering it. They jump over to Medicare Advantage plans. Now the practice owners that are somewhat newbies, or they're a couple years into practice, they don't have all the experience and the savviness that Tony has and all the admin and the back end and the understanding about billing and everything. They're going to just say, well, I don't take Medicare Advantage plans. But now you say, hey, but it's that $250 per visit out of pocket if you want to work with us that we mentioned before. Medicare was covering it before, but if you had owned it for years before with those same patients, the patient jumps over to Medicare Advantage plans. Now, all of a sudden, if you don't want to take Medicare Advantage plans, or you evaluate them and you say, hey, it's not covered or you're not medically necessary or whatever, if you want to work with us, it would be a self-pay rate of $250 per visit or whatever you guys all want to charge. It's so much easier to convert those individuals to pay you out of pocket. They already should know you, like you, and trust you. You've treated them. But in terms of the actual value, if you didn't convey that value for months or years ahead, now they jump over to Medicare Advantage plans. It would be so much easier to go lean back on that $250 per visit that you were kind of conveying in terms of value. Now the payer is different. It's shifted to Medicare Advantage plans, and it would be so much easier for therapists. But when they just stay on that in Medicare or insurance teat or whatever, and they're just like billing the beneficiary, they jump over to Medicare Advantage plans. Now it's a big lift to try to say to someone, well, it used to be covered, now you're a Medicare Advantage plan. We don't take Medicare Advantage plan. We're not set up like Tony Maritato. So it's $100, 150, 200 per visit out of pocket. And now they're going to get way less conversions, and those folks are going to drop off, and those patients are going to go elsewhere.
This is how I threw that party in San Diego at CSM a couple of years ago. It's the same shift. Here's what I did. I found about 10 companies that I knew were all going to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on dinners and taking people out and throwing parties. Their parties were going to be B minuses at best. So I pooled their money and said, I'm valuing this ticket at $250 a person. They turned to me and said, no one's going to pay $250. That's the thing. I made the companies pay. I said, give me your $10,000 that you were already going to spend anyway. I'm going to lump it with this guy's 10 grand and this guy's 10 grand, and none of them are competitors. And I'm going to rent out the San Diego Children's Museum, and I'm going to get the band, and I'm going to get the alcohol and the food, and I'm going to get the entertainment. And then I'm going to give you tickets. So if you gave me 10 grand, I'm going to give you 40 tickets. Well, how'd you get that number? 10 grand divided by $250, 40 tickets. Now your job is give me the check, get the hell out of my way, and then run around and make those 40 tickets as valuable as you can. Make sure people know the only way they could get in is by going to your booth or joining your email list or texting whatever or applying for a position. Those were the only ways. It was a shift. As soon as you gave me the 10 grand, I turned it into a party. Chips, same thing. I was just communicating it. And these were super smart people. These were owners of companies and brands and people with budgets. And I did it right in front of them, and I was super transparent. And when I laid it out that way, like this, they were okay with the two sides of a scale. They were like, yeah, okay. So hold on a second. You're going to, now keep in mind, I made no money from that because I was doing it because at the end, whatever I made and whatever I spent, I took the difference and let people give it to charity.
Jimmy, you took it big. It's all good.
I'm okay. I should have. I didn't even put my logo on the damn party when someone pointed out, like, where's your logo? I was like, you know what? This isn't about, it's amazing what happens. Franklin said, it's amazing what happens when no one cares about who gets credit. But it's a shift, right? It's a shift in understanding. This is simple and not easy. Doing it right now will not change anything. But if you do it right now over time, what we're just talking about, it compounds.
Now, I think what's important in this and the theme of today's episode is kind of how business owners are thinking about business versus how clinicians are thinking about patient care. This language is as valuable for the therapist to understand as it is for the consumer.
Yeah.
You know, as the therapist, if I know patients aren't paying anything, I don't care. Like, if you're not happy, who cares? Leave. Like, you're not paying anything anyway. But when we switch this over, when I started showing therapists who work for the hospital, do you guys realize like a unit of therapeutic activity is almost $350? You guys are charging $300.
Uh-oh. Tony froze. He was so excited. He's frozen on your screen, right?
Yep.
He'll come back. Isn't it amazing though that a theme sort of shows up? Like, just for everybody. Keep going, Tony. You froze for a second.
I was just saying it helps the therapist to understand and.
I mean, this is a smarter way to get people to listen longer. As if Tony keeps dropping like really good information, but then pausing for a few seconds, it makes people listen.
It's a cliffhanger, a digital cliffhanger.
It's smart. Always leave them wanting more. But a theme emerges, right? That's the amazing part is we don't talk about this. We just talk about a topic, and then these things show up. Those are the things I want people to pay attention to. Like everything we just talked about for the last 10 minutes is all about how to communicate perceived value. Someone said, what's the difference between value and perceived value? And then someone was like, well, it's what people are like. No, they're the same thing. Perceived is redundant. It's value or not. Look, there's two kids, and I call them kids because they felt super young. And I'll figure out the name of their company. But they essentially were creating a website for PTs to buy and sell used equipment. I thought of these guys when Tony was just talking about how he hasn't, bought like new equipment in 20 years or whatever. These guys were like, they just booked a meeting from my LinkedIn calendar or whatever. And I was like, what do you guys do? And they're like, we have orthoequipmentexchange.com or whatever. I'll find the.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you guys do? And they're like, well, if you're selling equipment from your clinic, other people could buy it. And I was like what? And they're like, look, we have an AlterG for $16,000 that someone wants to sell and is willing to sell it for 16 grand. And if you want to buy it, and I'm like, are either of you in PT? And they're like, no. And I'm like, this is where I get to say,
this is a tough business. This is a tough business. I don't know how much money how much percentage you're gonna make off of every transaction.
Correct. Well, yeah, never mind that. I'm like, what problem are you solving? Well, they need equipment and use. I was like, so now you're competing against Facebook Marketplace,
which is free, yeah.
Which is free and already has not a first mover advantage, but they're light years behind. But then I said, let's go a little deeper. Like I felt like I was giving them a lesson, and I was like, keep in mind, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy who talks to like the founders of Apple and tries to talk them out of it, and then I can be that guy 10 years later they're talking about on screen. There was this guy trying to talk us out of it, but they were saying like we could be the place for clinics to buy and sell used equipment, and I was like, I don't know, is there enough demand there? I think AlterG was coming out when I was in PT school, and I was like, look at this. This is going to be in every clinic in the world. This is going to be great. And then my professor sat me down and said, come here, child. How much does that cost? I was like, doesn't matter. It's going to be so great. People will pay anything. And like, will they though? Because of the discussion we just had, people think it's included, but it wouldn't be. And then an AlterG was, and I don't want to quote it, but 20 grand more. I don't remember what an AlterG costs. And then I just simply broke it down for these guys. If I'm a clinic owner, I'm thinking, how many running treatments do I need to do and charge extra for to break even on this? And yes, some people have said you put that AlterG in your window if you have a clinic on Main Street, it's a loss leader. It looks so cool. They've got to check it out. 20 grand for a loss leader is tough, right? Free massage gun with purchase of a 20 session package might be a little bit more palatable. So I don't know if I talked them out of their business model, but I definitely shined a flashlight on the lack of problem.
But yeah, and the challenge with that is like, are they going to manage the actual physical items? Like if, you know, if Jimmy, you have I don't know, a treatment table and I want to buy it and I'm like, well, we're haggling and you send me pictures, but like how are they going to ensure that Jimmy sends it to me and like they're going to be some layer?
Even if you gave it to me for free and I had to pay for shipping and handling and assembly and yada, yada, it would be cheaper just to go to Amazon or buy a new one at that point. So I'm like, so you're taking a percentage of $8? I'm like, and at no volume, I'm like, walk me through this business model again. Like what problem? I mean, I hate to be like the shark. I mean, I felt like Kevin O'Leary in Shark Tank where I'm just like trashing
you're 100% right. I mean, I like how you started, like, what problem are they solving? And it's like, this is like where I went wrong with Vinicial. Like it was a nice to have, but it wasn't like vital. It wasn't like an EMR.
Rewind Vinicial, because I remember sitting on my couch in PT as a student then being like, this is cool. Vinicial was the thing, like the pop-up box, the chat box, right?
No, that was Rob's. That was the PT Live. So we had the iOS. We had the iOS and Android app for patients to communicate, to text with their therapist or the front desk without the therapist giving out their cell phone numbers. So
what's the problem with that though?
It was messaging. It was secure messaging, HIPAA compliant messaging, but it was like a nice to have. It wasn't mission critical. If you want to have a piece of software, it has to be mission critical. So that's why EMR, a medical record, a schedule, especially what you guys do with Athelus, like revenue cycle management, you know, getting owners more money, and the software works in the background. Those things are mission critical. Those deliver value, efficiency, savings, all that type of stuff. And my thing was like a nice to have. It was like, oh yeah, our patients will be a little more engaged and the therapist can message them and they can message their therapist and ask about home exercise program, or the patient can message the front desk to schedule a visit or change your appointment or whatever without having to call in. So less phone volume or whatever potentially, but it was a nice to have. It wasn't like, it was not mission critical. So that and same thing with these guys with being the layer between owners and two different owners, like a seller and a buyer that wants a therapy equipment. It's not like a red hot problem that they deal with daily.
Let's look at this in a different light. Let's change the subject. I think Tony had a patient come in, so he might have to just dip for the rest of the show, but we got 15 minutes left. AI scribes feel like they were nowhere, and then they came on the scene 8 months ago. I feel like, is that the timeline? About 8 months ago,
something like that. Yeah.
And now Epic, and of course these EMRs are now announcing, this is we called this. I mean, I hate, just it's a pattern, so we're able to call this, right? We said you're either going to get bought and absorbed, or you're going to stay independent and you're going to get smoked because an EMR or a tech company is just going to develop their own. They're going to buy someone or hire a bunch of people who created it. So it's becoming a commodity. So now you're looking for, I feel like this is like a progression of the initial conversation, which is that's a great, nice thing to have in a platform that does 20 other things that is mission critical. I feel like AI scribes are at that moment now too, where if you're just an AI scribe company and your client is $200 a month per user, that's a hard business to be in when that client also has to have an EMR or a billing system, and they're just going to throw it in for free. Now you're a commodity, and it's difficult to tell people you're not. Does that make sense? Do you look at it that way too? Like what EMR do you use?
We use Jane.
Do they have an AI scribe built in?
They have been working on one, so I don't know if it's
they're either
available
keep working on it until it's great, and you'll either, if you want to or not, buy a third party or lease or rent a third party one until they do. Would you ever keep both? If Jane's was B- or better, would you be paying for someone else's B+?
It depends on how good it is.
Yeah. Right, you're gonna look at the difference until they were close, and then you're just gonna go, it's a push. Why am I doing two?
At that point, then it's a commodity. Then you go with the cheaper one.
Right. So we were. How did we get on this conversation? Oh, we were talking about like Vinicial. It wasn't mission critical, but if that app was part of something, it would be a nice tool. Oh God, I hate this analogy. I can't believe I'm about to say nice tool in the toolbox.
No, but yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, but so Tony, to catch, I don't know if you heard, but like Jimmy was talking about this company that is trying to match, trying to help people with therapy equipment. So owners that are selling or they're closing down or whatever, and
it wasn't a big enough problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the problem with therapy. Most of the time, it's not a big enough problem. My shoulder hurts. Okay, who cares? Like, I still do everything I need to do. It's not a big enough problem. And if
Yet.
we want to keep trying to get paid more, we need to solve more real problems, more urgent problems. Now, I'm talking from my perspective, outpatient ortho, people are driving themselves, bathing themselves, feeding themselves. No, nobody cares about paying more just to stop some shoulder pain. But if you had a stroke, if you had a brain injury, if you had, you're in pediatrics, like there are so many aspects to the profession that are truly high, high, high value.
Last weekend, I visited 3 different assisted living / facilities for my dad that also had memory care, because that's, of course, potentially the next step. Just don't know when. I saw 3. After the first 2, I was like, do we need to see 10 more? Lucky I did, because this third one was all memory care. All 3 of them, I could just regurgitate the pitch right now, right? And I had with me a former nurse who now helps me sort of like navigate some of this. She's an elder care advisor for my dad. And she asks about staffing ratios and training and yada, yada, yada. To me, table stakes. Does anybody walk in and ask you where you got your DPT or how many No, they don't. Table stakes. I need you to know your stuff, right? I'm looking at it completely differently, right? They keep asking, what is your dad like? Oh, he likes the Yankees and golf. I'm like, dude, I can solve that problem. I'm going to get him YouTube TV. Don't worry about that. The thing I'm looking for, none of them brought up. Does this place feel creepy? Does it feel dark and dank? Is my dad going to be pissed off that I put him here, right? And that's how I feel, right? As a son, that I'm putting my dad here. And I'm using that word intentionally. I'm looking at that, right? And I saw 2 places that I would not want to spend a night, and a third that I was like, I'd hang out here. But none of them advertised that. They kept advertising nursing and staffing ratios, and our chef is great. Well, that is another one. My dad does complain about the food, but the food just needs to be a B- or better. It has to be okay. The other stuff, who are the other people, right? Like what does
it look like? But that comes back to video that we've talked about a lot.
Correct. What does it look like? What does it feel like? None of them talked about that. And I'm the decision maker. They kept talking to her. I'm like, okay, let me see it. I'll get all this later. If it's creepy and you have great ratios, I don't care, right? I need a B- or better on the table stakes. I need the other intangible stuff to blow me away, because I got to convince my dad, help me, help you. And only 1 out of 3 did.
I know we're running out of time. Dave shared an awesome video. I can't get it out of my head. It was a client of his showing off his sleeve tattoo. He had the American flag. He had the bridge. He had the firefighter, and the fire truck. And the way he explained like the meaning of the tattoo. First thing that popped into my mind, I was like, how the heck does this guy afford Dave's services? But that's awesome, because what that means is that
golden ticket. It was golden ticket. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter that I don't know that. If I was a potential person sitting at home, and listen, I've got 2 firefighters in the family, like they make a boatload of money. They make a ton of money. So first I was like, ooh, this is going to resonate with a certain key demographic that I think is ideal for what Dave is doing. 2, it was so like moving and touching firefighters and Americana, and emotionally I felt stirred watching that video. I thought it was awesome. I just thought it was great. So good job on that.
Thank you. And when I posted it, I don't know if you noticed, but when I posted it, I added him as a, what's it called, collaborator. So now, and now it's up to that user to accept or not. Mm-hmm. And he accepted it. So now that post is on his account, and he's still local, but he's got I don't know, 3 or 4, some 500 whatever followers, like not crazy big, but it's just more exposure. And the post, the caption of the post, your boy's got a call to action at the bottom of that caption, and now it's in front of his people.
And really, those small audiences are who you want. They're probably friends and family. They're probably local people, like you said. Hitting an audience of 1 million followers doesn't really matter for what you're trying to do.
10 miles wide, but an inch deep, or an inch wide and 10 miles deep. No like and trust. There's trust there.
All right, let's
Right
wrap
on.
it up. I think Dave is out on Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Jimmy and I are holding down the fort. I don't know if we're going to bring in a guest or not, but parting shots for today's episode. Language means a lot, like the words we use. Even Jimmy had to explain to me what memory care was, because the idea that it conjured for me was like, oh, they're going to work on memory. They're going to work on cognition. They're going to, like, I thought it was a service
That's what
around.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, but in reality, it's just another way to say, hey, people who have confusion and cognitive decline need some extra help. We're going to provide that extra help to keep them safe. Completely different from what I was thinking based on the words.
This is why those ads were on Saturday mornings. And I think I forget her name. She was like a news broadcaster 20 years ago or whatever, but she does a place for mom. Because that's what you need. You need a place for my mom. And that will never age out. That name will never age out.
Yeah, that's the company name and the website URL. Like, what a genius name.
Right. And well, why wouldn't you have a place for parents? Well, 80% of people in those facilities, I'm making up numbers, but about like what I've seen, it's mostly females. It's mostly people trying to figure out what do I do with my mom? I can't live like this, and take care of her. So understand what your ideal customer is Googling. It's not the mom. It's the daughter, but she's not typing daughter looking for help for mom. So I'm looking for a place for my mom, and it gets your attention right away.
So parting shot, Jolly Ranchers are not healthy, but they are fat free. So I'm not going to say eat a bunch of artificially colored sugar. I'm going to say go get some Jolly Ranchers because they're fat free. I
was in New York City in a supermarket once, and this Australian couple stopped me and were like, we need to ask you, what does kosher mean? And I'm like, it means cool. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, hold on. They're looking at it on the label. And I'm like, oh, it's a Jewish religion, and it says that it meets these. And they were like, oh, so it doesn't. And I'm like, no, you're good. It's kosher. Nothing.
It's food that was blessed by a rabbi. It's very complicated. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, but I had to explain that to someone. So words but that's smart. Throwing kosher on your packaging in New York City. If it's not there, you might exclude a large portion of your audience. If it's not there.
You got to know your niche. Takeaway, parting shot. Who cares about evolution of corporate logos? If that's what they want to do and they know their customer, they know what they're doing, it's all planned out. But the Luna thing, I see how it ruffles feathers. I don't fully agree with it, but it's a business move. They're doing what they're doing to get in front of more patients and more clients. And that's it.
Are we mad they're doing it, or are we mad they're doing it and it's getting more attention than what we're doing? Like that's what I ask. People will rush to merge the two things, Luna and Cracker Barrel. People will rush to Cracker Barrel's stock price. And I go, you guys know stock prices aren't measured in a day. I mean, they are, but you got to look 6, 12, 18 months from now to see what maybe 3 years from now. Because if they're measuring a shift in who they want to communicate to, that ain't how you don't measure in the day. That ain't how it's measured. And they know that's a long play. All right. Dave, enjoy your Thursday. We'll see you guys back here.
I know. Thank you.